For avid hikers and outdoor enthusiasts, summiting the highest peaks in the contiguous United States is a thrilling adventure. 14ers refers to mountains that stand at over 14,000 feet above sea level. Among them, the three highest in the lower 48 states offer unique challenges and breathtaking experiences. Here's what you need to know about hiking Mount Massive, Mount Elbert, and Mount Whitney.
Hello everyone, Tyler and Mimi Ford, inspired to go making memories one adventure at a time. And this summer we set out for a bucket list adventure, and that was hiking the three highest 14ers in the lower 48 states. And we actually didn't think we were going to be able to make it happen because hiking Mount Whitney requires a permit, and we put in for the lottery and we didn't get in. And we knew we were going to Leadville and we were going to hike Mount Massive and Mount Elbert, and we kind of gave up on the idea. But spur of the moment, kind of a last minute thing, I went onto the website to just look into permits. And long story short, I was able to get a permit, and literally we jumped in our car the next day and headed to Whitney Portal, and we banged out and summited Mount Whitney. So we got that one off the list, and then we knew we were going to be able to get our challenge done. But out of the three hikes, I would have to say there's a reason that Mount Whitney is so popular. It requires a permit because it is
really pretty.
It is awesome. Mm-hmm. So it's the
by
longest,
far my favorite.
The longest, hardest, most picturesque. But there's a reason why it's the most popular 14er out there, and it's worth doing and getting a permit. And then Massive and Elbert were awesome as well. We'd done Elbert before. We forgot how steep it was. The last 2 miles are really steep.
It's pretty hard in the end.
But out of those two, I'd say Massive was our favorite. It was awesome. So we're going to dive into the three highest 14ers. And in the show notes below, we did a detailed video on all three of them. So if you want to dive deeper into learning more about Mount Whitney, Mount Elbert, and Mount Massive, check out the show notes. So we're going to go over each one of them. Hope you enjoy.
Mount Whitney is the tallest mountain in the contiguous United States, located in the Sierra Nevada range of California. The trail to the summit is a popular bucket list hike, attracting adventurers from around the world. The Whitney Portal is the most common starting point, leading to the summit through the famous Whitney Trail. Hiking Mount Whitney is a strenuous hike that is 22 miles round trip with an elevation gain of 6,600 feet. The trail is long and demanding, with steep switchbacks and exposure to high altitudes. Hikers often start before dawn to reach the summit and return in daylight. A permit is required year-round to hike the Mount Whitney Trail. Due to high demand, a lottery system is used for permits during the peak season.
Before we go to the overview of Mount Elbert and Mount Massive, we first want to explain something. The cool thing about these two 14ers is they're west of Leadville on Half Moon Road, and they're literally right next to each other. So if you're going to Leadville and you want to do some 14ers, definitely plan staying enough time to be able to do both of these, because logistically, once you do one, you know where the other one is. But if you're going down Half Moon Road, you're going to see Mount Elbert trailhead on the left.
And then about a quarter of a mile up the road, you're going to see Mount Massive trailhead on the right.
So once you've done one, you know exactly where you're going to need to go for the other one. So logistically, they're really easy to get to, and we would highly recommend planning your trip around being able to do both of them. Mount Elbert is the highest peak in Colorado and the second highest in the contiguous United States. Located in the Sawatch Range of the Rocky Mountains, it offers multiple routes to the summit, with the North Elbert Trail and the South Elbert Trail being the most popular. Hiking Mount Elbert is also a strenuous hike that is 9 miles round trip with an elevation gain of 4,700 feet using the North Elbert Trail. The trail is relatively straightforward, but involves a significant elevation gain. The views from the summit are expansive. offering vistas of the surrounding Rocky Mountains. Weather can change rapidly, so be prepared for cold and windy conditions at the top. No permits are required for hiking Mount Elbert, but the trail can be busy during the summer months.
Mount Massive, true to its name, is known for its expansive ridgeline and multiple summits. Located just a few miles from Mount Elbert, it is the third highest peak in the contiguous United States. The standard route is via the Mount Massive Trail. Hiking Mount Massive is a moderately strenuous hike that is 13 miles round trip with an elevation gain of 4,500 feet. Hiking Mount Massive is a rewarding experience with panoramic views. The trail winds through lush forests and alpine meadows before reaching the rocky summit. No permits are required to hike Mount Massive. As with other popular trails, starting early is recommended to enjoy a quieter ascent.
Before we wrap this video up, we want to go over some things to consider. And some of these lessons we've learned the hard way when doing a 14er. And so when doing any one of these 3 14ers or any 14er for that matter, the number one thing that we would recommend is make sure you get an early start. And there's a couple reasons for that, especially in July, August, and September when it's monsoon season. The last thing you want to do is get stuck on the top of that summit in a rain, lightning, and thunderstorm, which we've done before, and it's not fun. So getting an early start, you reduce the chances of getting hammered by a monsoon storm. And then the other reason to start early too is as the day heats up, usually the wind kicks in, and when you're on the top of a 14er, later in the day it can get really, really windy. The temperature can drop. So getting an early start, you reduce the risk of both lightning and thunder and rain and then wind. The other thing to consider is on all 3 of these hikes, we use trekking poles. We would highly recommend them. They save your legs, especially on the downhill. And when you're training, a lot of people don't talk about this. They underestimate the downhill. You want to make sure you have your downhill legs on from a training standpoint. And every time we come off a 14er, we're next to somebody coming down, or we see coming down, and they're just wrecked, and they're more wrecked from the downhill than they are the uphill, and they can barely get off the mountain. So make sure you train the downhill. And then the last thing to consider is we're big on sun protective gear. We always wear our long sleeve and our hoodies, staying out of the sun, sunscreen. And when you're at 14,000 feet, that sun can get intense. So just make sure you've got the right gear on. It can make for a much more enjoyable hiking experience when doing a 14er.
Hiking these iconic peaks can be very challenging, but very rewarding as well, with the scenic views and the spectacular wildlife and all the beauty that is out there. So I highly recommend hiking the 14ers. These especially are the best.
Well, we hope you enjoyed this video about the 3 highest 14ers in the lower 48 states. If you did, do us a huge favor. Give us an internet high five by liking the video. If you have any questions about any one of these hikes, go ahead and comment below. We'd love to get back to you. And for more awesome outdoor adventure videos, you can subscribe to the channel. If you hit that bell button, each and every time a video comes out, you're going to be notified. And at the end here, right here, YouTube's going to serve up another video that you might find interesting.
And what is your next adventure? We would love to hear from you.